I'm Nathan Rogers, joined this week by Joe Ellenberger, and Mike Kendall wasn't able to make it, so I put out the bat signal, and we ended up with UFC fighter Darrick Minner sitting here with us tonight, making some picks, talking some fights.
Upgraded from Mike. Sorry, Mike.
Be sure, if you're watching this, like, comment, subscribe. We could use the help. We share this stuff. We want to get it out there. We're having a lot of fun with this. We want to keep it going. Man, Darrick, we haven't had you here before. Tell us a little bit about, man, what's going on with you right now?
Not much, man. Just healing, starting to get back into camp, starting to, get in better shape so that I'll be ready, for the next one, hopefully April. And, fought in December and enjoy the holidays. Now we're just trying to get back to life, normal life, training and kids, and that's about it.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming up and helping us out today.
Yep.
I know it's a last-minute thing. Today we're drinking Puncher's Chance. This is Bruce Buffer's bourbon. We started off last week drinking a little bit of Proper 12.
Mm-hmm.
And this weekend we're doing the Announcer bourbon. Should be a lot of fun.
Appreciate you putting this out for us to try.
The nice thing is we got a lot more of these to come too, surprisingly enough.
Oh, man.
Smooth.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It burnt me. So. No, I'm just playing.
The seasoned whiskey guys.
Yeah.
So, Joe, let's talk a little bit. Last week, after we got done with the show, we decided to actually solidify the way we're doing some of these bets.
Yep. And I got crushed.
So, tell them a little bit about exactly what did we decide we're going to do here.
So we're just going to kind of, talk about them and then map them out. I went 1-3 last week, and then Mike, nice job, you went 3-1. And so with the way that we broke it down, basically we're each going to take $100, throw it at the card with what we like, what we think is going to happen, what we see as a strategic, from a fighter's perspective, and clearly the announcer has a better perspective than the fighter last week. I took that the under 4.5 rounds in that Strickland fight. I thought he was going to come out swinging hard, looking for a finish. He talks about being this sociopathic killer, and he was everything that a sociopathic killer is not that night. So he did not kill him and did not get him out of there in 4.5. So I lost that bet. Jason Witt, I liked him in that one. It was a dogfight. He got put down. Happens in the game. I've been there. Everyone's been there. I did get my under 2.5 rounds on Chidi Njokuani, and it actually only took him 16 seconds to land the knockout. So that was money well spent right away. And then my 5-banger, I had 3 of them hit. One was a push because he didn't end up fighting Alves, Hawes. But the 5th one was the Witt fight going over 1.5 rounds, and he ended up, I think, getting finished at 2:15 of round 2. So 16 more seconds, and we would have cashed that one too. But that won't be the first time we get backdoored like that, and or wasn't the first time, and certainly won't be the last. So no big deal there. Mike did cash on Maximov and Njokuani straight up, and then his 5-banger had the same 3 that I won, and then he also added Almeida. He was an LFA guy. And so I think Mike ended up $147. I'm down 41, so we're going to need to right the ship here.
And this week, you're going to go against Minner here. He's kind of got the same experience as you do as far as coming from the fight background, so maybe you got a better chance here.
I'd like to think so, but we'll see.
Oh, man.
Minner's a seasoned veteran, too, man. He probably has more. He has more pro fights than me, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
5 years ago, probably, not 10.
I don't know, man. I'm getting old.
Man, okay. We have a huge card coming up this weekend. We've got UFC 271. It's headlined by Israel Adesayna and Robert Whittacker. This is number 2 for them. Man, Darrick, somebody that hasn't been here before, I want to hear, what is your kind of breakdown on this fight?
I mean, if Izzy goes out and does the same thing and Whittaker allows him to do that, I mean, it's going to look similar to what happened in the first fight. But, I mean, my take is if you learn, for one, Whittaker's going to learn. He's smart, he's young, and he had 3 fights, went 3-0. But I believe the recipe is out there for Whittaker to actually shoot more and land more takedowns and get him to the ground just like Jan did. And everybody keeps using the argument that, Jan was so much bigger. Yeah, but Whittaker's not a small guy. I think Izzy's way smaller. I mean, Whittaker's going to walk in probably 15, 20 pounds heavier. So I believe he's going to end up landing the takedowns and securing the victory by decision.
Where are you at on this one, Joe?
You know, I think that's a pretty solid breakdown. You know, Adesayna, I think that his flaws still, he kind of sits back a little bit. He tries to counterpunch. He tries to pick guys out a little bit. Robert Whittaker, man, he's a gangster. He's been through a lot of wars. He's as tough as they come. He moves forward. He's smart, though. He's tactful. And again, with his size advantage, you know, I think Izzy's got a little bit of a speed advantage, especially early on. But I think Whittaker kind of learns from his mistakes. Izzy coming off that loss to Jan, you know, I don't know what that does to a fighter's confidence a little bit. So he hasn't really been in adversity like that before. I do like, especially at the odds on that one, I believe Whittaker was plus 215. I think that's a great line to get some value on, you know. And I like Whittaker straight up anyway in that fight, so I could see it by decision pretty easy for Whittaker.
Our odds today brought to you by mybookie.ag. Be sure if you do decide to go play some bets on this, which is a great card to go play some bets on, go to mybookie.ag. Either use the QR code you can see down in the corner, or use the code MMAFUT and get double your first deposit. So, Darrick, I mean, kind of seeing the odds, I mean, where do you think a good play on this one is at?
Yeah, just like Joe said, I like Whittaker straight up. I mean, 215, you're not going to get it. I mean, they're basing it on the last fight. Izzy went, 3-1, I think, and because he's fought 4 times, and Whittaker was 3-0. I just think, man, I think Whittaker's younger. He's going to learn.
You better move, you might get knocked out.
Jared Cannonier versus Darrick Brunson. Brunson's been on an absolute tear as of late. Is Cannonier going to be that guy that's going to slow him down?
You know, Cannonier's got the ability. I mean, he's big, athletic, you know, tough, great shape, hits hard. I mean, he's kind of the total package. These guys, this is kind of a coin flip fight in my eyes as far as skill levels. And these guys are, you know, Blonde Brunson's on a tear right now. So, you know, you might have to give the edge to the guy that shows up with blonde hair. I guess if Cannonier shows up with blonde hair, you know, who the hell knows what's going to happen at that point. But I think Brunson, as a short underdog, you know, he's hungry. He's always, you know, trying to come after it. You know, again, I think that's just going to be a dog fight. I think I'm going to have to take the over 2.5 rounds in that fight. I think both those guys are going to be hard to finish. They both have solid wrestling backgrounds, both good grapplers, both, you know, good punchers. They move well. You know, I think that fight goes to decision no matter what. So the over 2.5 being, I think, minus 115. I'll pay the extra 15 cents. Take the over.
We're on agreement with that. I like Brunson. I just think that, you know, he's just on a tear. I think he's fought the better competition. I just think that, you know, all the momentum. He's super confident, and I think Cannonier just has believed for so much longer that he deserved the title fight that, you know, he's overlooking Brunson or something along those lines, because I mean he's been right on the border. Brunson had to battle his way back up, you know, compared to everybody talking about Cannonier being next and kind of like keeping Brunson on the back burner, I feel like, and I just like that too. And over 2.5, I mean, it's pretty good. It's gonna be a wrestling match, I believe, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean Brunson. Let's be honest. He's got to have a lot of UFC fights. He's been in the UFC for 8 or 9 years now.
Yeah, it's been.
Cannonier's kind of on that come up. You know, I asked you this last week, but you know, kind of where does that experience start to play in, and does that give him a little bit more of an advantage over Cannonier, being able to stop Cannonier coming in, closing that distance, and being able to take him down?
Yeah, I mean, I think it breaks down well. The problem is you know, with experience, you can overcome it with other things. And I mean, Cannonier, correct if I'm wrong, I think he started out at maybe 205 and came down to middleweight.
Yeah.
And so I feel like too, he was used to fighting some of the big guys and having that much more, you know, horsepower, especially when you get into the wrestling scrap. You know, I think that could prove to be a little bit of an edge. You know, but again, those guys, I feel like skill sets, you know, athleticism, you know, the willpower, everything's going to be, you know, a coin flip, you know, so it's gonna be tight.
Shit, Cannonier's fought at highest heavyweight. I think he's like one of the only fighters that have fought
he's got
85,
three weight
205
classes,
heavyweight.
yep,
So,
yep.
I mean, obviously he's better than he was at those weights because, you know, he found his right weight class. But, I mean, man, Darrick Brunson's just on a whole nother level. I think his head's right. I think maybe he battled some confidence issues when he was coming up through Strikeforce and the UFC, and I think now it's just like he's on a tear, man.
Well, and one thing I always look back to, I mean, Brunson had Yoel Romero, I mean, down 2-0, and it wasn't even close going into that third round.
Yeah.
And then instead of taking him down and, grinding him out, he starts playing the pocket game and gets cracked, hurt, and then I think he got finished, right? And so that was one that I thought, man, Brunson's showed some horrible fight IQ there because he's up 2-0, and it's not a close 2-0. Everyone had a 2-0, and I think it's adversity like that a guy is going to learn from, and that's why maybe these odds are probably a little short on the other way. I mean, I think Brunson, he's been there, he's done that, he's made his mistakes. Maybe he overcomes this time.
Yeah, but Cannonier could win, but I mean the odds in the favor definitely.
You better move, you might get knocked out. You better move.
Man, you guys talked a lot about the heavyweights. This is probably the fight I am most excited for on this entire card. Taito Avasa and Derrick Lewis. You have no idea what we're getting into on this card. It could be a Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou fight all over again where nobody actually swings. Or it could be two guys coming out swinging. Derrick, I mean, where do you see this fight going? Who do you think comes out aggressive? Do you think anybody comes out aggressive on this fight?
Man, I think Taito Avasa has more to gain from the victory. I think that everybody expects Derrick Lewis to come in. He's been there. He's right on the verge of another title shot. But, I mean, I think the over 1.5, I think they both got granite chins. I think, they're kind of hesitant because they swing, they both swing pretty wild. But my thing is I like the over 1.5, and I like Derrick Lewis straight up if I was going to take a winner in that, just because he's been there, done that. He's been in the cage with everyone from Francis Ngannou to, just everybody in the UFC. So, I mean, that's my go on that.
The thing that just kills me about Derrick Lewis is every time I bet against that guy, he pulls out a win.
For sure.
I was in Vegas drinking actually some Proper 12 at a bar, watching this fight on TV when Lewis fought Alexander Volkov, and Volkov is just kicking his ass for it was 14 minutes, and then Lewis lands that big shot, puts him down, ref stops it with I think about 15 seconds left. And it's like you just can't count the guy out. You just can't. He won't die, right? He keeps coming forward, and he's always dangerous.
That's the same way as that. Who did he fight? Curtis Blades.
Blades,
I thought
that's
Curtis
exactly
Blades was just gonna. I mean, I fought on that
right?
card. I thought he was just gonna go out, wrestle him, take him down, do exactly what Daniel Cormier did, but. Dude, he landed that uppercut. Man, I thought I heard it at the hotel.
Wow.
It was wild, man.
Yeah, and so I like that fight actually, and this is probably going to go against public perception. I love that fight over 1.5, especially at plus 130. I think there's great value in that, and I think the public sees two big hitters going to come out guns a-blazing, and the thing is they both I think are going to respect each other's power, but also they're going to respect each other's chin. So no one's gonna really go in and kill or be killed immediately because of that respect issue. Of course, I'd love to see Derrick Lewis get the win and do a shoey, and Tuivasa will probably do one with him.
Yeah,
that should be a bet. Both guys do a shoey after the fight.
That'd be
plus
wild.
200. Hey, it'd be a short bet because Tuivasa's doing one no matter what.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be a cool fight, a fan favorite, obviously. I'll take the over 1.5 though at plus 130.
I heard an interview the other day with one of his with one of Derrick Lewis's training partners, and says that pretty much after every fight he has to change his phone number because he's just too nice of a guy, and people call him and want things from him in this, and he just can't say no. Man, this is in his hometown. How many times do you think he's changed his phone number in this training camp?
Yes, I mean.
Yeah, probably a couple. I don't know. Or you just quit giving it out to the people you don't trust.
Yeah, I mean, once you get to a certain point, you just don't give your phone number out anymore unless it's the people that you know. I just give out my manager's number. Call him, bug him. I'll give that to anybody. Right. You guys want Train's number? Take it. Because he just
I should start doing that. I give Train's number out.
Yeah, for real. That's what I do, man.
Just kidding, Train.
All right. So Joe, I mean, who else on this card are you looking at? Are you excited to see?
You know, there's 15 fights on this card. There's actually a lot of really good fights too. It's hard to kind of narrow it down.
You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You.
I'm gonna kind of stick with the old weight class of 155. I know Bobby King Green. Yeah, way old. What was that, 7 years ago? I haven't made weight for 7 years. Anyway, Bobby King Green's fighting that Nazareth Haka spot. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Anyway, both stand-up guys. You know, Nazareth's a Muay Thai guy. I think he's like 5-2 in his last 7 fights. He's a city kickboxing guy too, I believe, with Izzy and company. I think his last 2 losses were like Dan Hooker and Drew Dober. You know, Dober actually beat up a lot of the 55ers on this card, which is cool. Shout out Dober. And so I think, you know, that it's a good line. I think it's a pretty even fight. You know, at Nazareth's plus 115. The over's 2.5 rounds is like minus 220. That's dead on, just because those guys are gonna just be in a stand-up fight. I don't think anyone's gonna get put down. I think Green kind of sits back a lot, counter punches. You know, I do like that fight. I think it's gonna be an exciting one to watch. And then jumping into that Alex Hernandez and Renato Mosiano fight. Hernandez is another guy that was surging. You know, they were trying to put him up the ranks and maybe give him a bunch of hype train, and then Dober got to derail that hype train as well with a pretty nasty knockout. And that was a pretty sweet fight to watch. But now you're looking at Hernandez a little bit reborn. I think he's a little more humble. You know, he's grown up a little bit. He's fighting that Mosiano, who I believe was a 45-pounder before. And so Hernandez is a monster at 55. You know, he might be walking in the cage at 185, 190 pounds that day. And if Mosiano is a 45-pounder, you know, he's just not going to have the size. And so I think, you know, Hernandez at plus 150, you know, that's a pretty, I like that bet just because there's a lot of value there. And Hernandez, you know, young kid, you know, he's ready for the big time. I see him getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that fight, I think, was it Masiano? I think that I believe he's more of a striker, right? Because he was beating up Brian Ortega pretty good when they fought. But he's not active enough. I think Hernandez is way more active. I think he's going to be bigger, and if they're in a stand-up war, he's going to pose some more power, way more power than what he will on the ground. I think Hernandez can control him if he does shoot. You know, you can't play that jiu-jitsu game off your back, you know, and then. Yeah, man. I definitely. What other fight did you talk about? That right there?
Bobby Green.
And that's the thing. I agree on that. I like the over. Just because I mean they're both. Bobby Green don't pose enough power. Nazareth gets hit a lot, but he doesn't pose enough power to knock him out. I don't think because he's a point fighter, and so is Nazareth can knock him out, but Bobby Green don't get knocked out. He goes to split decisions. I mean, look at his last. I mean, how many times has the guy been screwed? You know, on split decisions. So if it goes to decision. I mean, the chances are Nazareth's going to get the nod because for some reason Bobby Green the decisions do not favor him.
The scorecards just do not go in his favor.
For whatever reason, even if you think he wins, he doesn't, he just doesn't get him on the scorecards. And we know how messed up those judges were last weekend. So
yeah. Well, I think that's a kickoff on the main card, so that's the first fight on the main card. That'll be.
You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
So, Darrick, is there anybody else on this card that you're looking forward to seeing?
Man, I think I mean if obviously it's pretty steep odds, but I really like Casey O'Neill over Roxanne Modafferi. I just think that man, I think Casey O'Neill is just a new blood. I think she's just better. She's better everywhere. She's better on the ground, but Roxanne has ruined a lot of my parlays in my life because I just don't see her that good, and all of a sudden she comes out and she holds these girls down and she gets the victory. But I like Casey O'Neill. You can throw her in a parlay. I definitely like that. I like that AJ Dobson. He grew up on the Midwest circuit. You know, we've watched him a lot, and that Molcon. I just think he gets hit too much, and he's still young. He's 5-1. That Dobson's only 6-0, but I feel like he's had a lot more like boxing experience. If I remember right, I think he's boxed a lot. I think he's had kickboxing fights and stuff like that. And he grew up on the tougher circuit. So I think they just brought Molcon in to get beat up by God. What was it? Chimaev that one time, and I think that's why he's signed right now at such a young record. So Dobson had to win to get on through the Contender Series. So I believe that Dobson's just better.
Man, I always love seeing Roxanne on the card. Fun little story about Roxanne. I went down to Syndicate, was down there with some fighters, watching them train, and watched her walk up to the coach there and say, "Hey, coach, I gotta leave." "Why you gotta leave?" She had separated her retina, which has apparently been an issue for her, and she had to leave and go to the eye doctor, just nonchalantly, just like, I gotta go have my eye looked at. It was the craziest thing ever. I was like, man, if my retina gets detached, I am in an absolute panic.
No, exactly.
Been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt.
Man, so I know that both of you guys, Joe, you and I talked about Isaac Bulgarian last week. Man, we got to kind of circle back to that. Man, he came into FAC 12 as the main event, absolutely dominated, got a contract to the UFC, so you'll be seeing him there sometime soon, man. How do you guys think he did?
The kid showed he's a real deal. I mean, I think that performance speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, I've known this since I've been training with the kid I've been with Glory for what 2 years almost now. Pretty much after I fought Grant, I went down there and man, I was like, who is this young kid, man? Like he giving me hard ass rounds right away, and I was like, who is this? And they're like, oh, he wrestled, he was a really good wrestler and stuff. But he's one. I think he was 2-0 at the time that I got there. He's 5-0 now, but. Not many guys that I say that are 5-0 are ready for the big show. As a fighter, as a coach, as a whatever, like training partner. I don't think a lot of guys are ready at 5-0. But I promise you, that kid is the real deal. He is really good. I watch him in the room. I've grappled him. Like he's freaking mean. He's tough, and he's gonna make a splash. And I will see him. I think as a world champion. Honestly, honest opinion.
Man, Elsie Davis walked up to Sean Wheelock after the show last night. You can hear it over if you go watch it on Fight Pass, and he said this kid is the real deal. He's just something different.
No, 100%. And I've been around. I mean, I'm a vet now. I mean, I've been doing this 13 years, and that kid is one of the kids you look at and you're like, I mean, he's 25, and you just know he's gonna be great. You just know it.
Yeah. So we are going to do a special Super Bowl episode. It'll probably be much shorter than these. It'll be up tomorrow. But Joe did come across a bet that he's super excited about for MMA and the Super Bowl.
Yes.
What is it, Joe?
So there is a prop bet. I believe it's over at Circa. There's a couple other apps you might be able to find it on. But they have the amount of UFC 271 finishes, which would be submission, knockout, or DQ, TKO, versus touchdowns in the Super Bowl the next day. And so right now, the touchdowns in the Super Bowl are -1.5 versus the finishes. So essentially, if you see 5 finishes, that -1.5, you'd have to have 7 total touchdowns in the game for that bet to win. I am gonna unload on the +1.5 of that finishes because in this 16 fight card, I think you're gonna easily see, 6, 7 finishes, 8 finishes maybe. I don't think you're going to see 10 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So that's my pick. Jumping into that Super Bowl, old Joey Burrow, kind of coming from nowhere to the Super Bowl is pretty cool. I would love to see a Bengals win just based on kind of his story and the way that he's been there. His brother Jamie Burrow actually lives here in Omaha, and I text him before games every now and then, and we BS about, his brother and how he's been doing. And he actually Jamie went with me to Ryan Jensen's UFC debut in Vegas years ago. That's when I met him. And so we've been friends ever since. But cool to see Joe, in the spotlight like that. I think the Bengals have an explosive offense. I am nervous that Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Jalen Ramsey and company are going to give that offense shake them up a little bit. That O-line for the Bengals is going to be getting beat on, and so should be a good game. But 10 touchdowns, not going to happen.
No, it's definitely not going to happen. But I mean, what Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp can just take that and do 5 apiece, right?
They very well could.
I mean, it
Yeah.
could happen.
Light
Yeah.
my money on fire if that
Yeah,
happens.
it definitely. I don't think so, but I mean, it might. It's that defense though for the Rams is just. I mean, they're on point. Everybody's playing good. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's clicking. That's why they are where they are. I like the Bengals straight up money line. I think that it's going to be cool to watch Joe Burrow win the championship just after he, did what he has done through the playoffs. You never would have thought that Bengals were in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's absurd, It's just it's wild. They just went out and beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead, I mean, I like to see it. But
Well, and the funny thing is, I think I read a statistic where the Bengals have been a 3.5 to 4 point underdog 5 times this year, and they're 5-0 so far on the money line. And it was like Tennessee, the Chiefs, obviously the last time, maybe the Steelers and somebody else, and it showed the breakdown of, every time they get in that close game, they pull it out.
Yeah.
So I think the +4 is a pretty safe bet too. I don't think, LA is going to come out and light the world on fire. But then again, it's a home game for the Rams, which is kind of scary because it is in LA or Inglewood.
I did see something that no one has ever won the Heisman Trophy, the national championship, and the Super Bowl, and he's about to do it in 3 years.
Yeah,
That would be
cool.
wild, man. That is wild. That's never happened. He's about to do it within 3 years. That kid's riding high right now.
All right, we'll find out more about this tomorrow on our Super Bowl special. Joe, let's break down our bets, your Darrick's bets for this week.
So I've got bet 1 Whittaker money line. I'll have 25 on it to win 53.75. I'm going to take that over 2.5 rounds on Brunson Cannonier. 25 there pays $21.74. Alex Hernandez as a money line, $25 wins $37.50. And then my can't lose parlay because everything in there is just so good. I've got Casey O'Neill, that minus 380. I've got the over 1.5 rounds in that co-main event with, over 2.5 rounds with Bobby Green at the minus 220. I've got the over 1.5 rounds with Tuivasa. I've got Dobson, and then I've got Vinay, and I know we didn't talk about him much. He's fighting Andrei Arlovsky. He's a short underdog. I think there's just value in that pick. So $25 in that one's $3.99, and so take that to the bank.
And Darrick, who'd you get on this card?
What do we got?
Right
You
side.
got the odd. I'm definitely. Let me just. So I took Whittaker at +215 money line, 25 to win 53.75. I took Brunson money line, 25 to win 35. And that's blonde Brunson, by the way. And then I took O'Neal, my parlay. I got a 5-teamer. O'Neal, Perez, Dobson, the over on what did I
Green
do?
and Tuivasa. I
Yeah,
think,
Green and
And then over
Nazareth.
Tuivasa. Oh, that's right.
and then Tuivasa and Lewis over 1.5. $50 pays $4.46. And yeah.
And well, you guys heard it here. Let's hope that these guys all win some money. You should go put some money on those on mybookie.ag. Be sure to tune in next week as we try to break down the Adesayna fight. Faizov fight.
The best half IL in the UFC. I believe is how that's deemed.
And be sure to tune in tomorrow, and we'll tell you a little bit about our Super Bowl picks. It won't be nearly as long, I promise you.